Hello and welcome to this second video on the Logical Editor, and this is going to be all about selection. So quite often you can have times where you want to pick notes in a MIDI part which are similar in terms of their length or something like that, or position, but they are not next to each other. So I've got a good example here. So this is from something I was working on this morning. We've got a simple keyboard part which has got this sort of keyboard riff. Now, while this is repeated, this would work for anything. So we could have key changes or chord changes, etc. So while I'm sure some people go, well, you could just do the first one, the point is to show you the way the tool works. So the Logical Editor can pick or select notes depending on their position of the bar, which can be really useful, because what we want to do in this case is I want to select these and these and these and these and so on. And you can do that obviously by holding down shift and then selecting these, this, that and the other, but it's always a bit dicey because the further on you get, the more the fear gets into you and you think, oh, if I click in the wrong place now, I'm going to screw something up, or if I let go of shift and then touch that, etc. And it can be quite difficult, particularly if you've got 100 bars or something to do. So the Logical Editor makes this much simpler. So I'm going to go up to open it up here. And we're going to be working in the filter section at the top. So we can see our first line is still there. Type is equal to note. That's going to stay there because we only want to work on notes. We don't want to open up selection of things such as modulation, and other controllers or pitch bend or anything like that. We just want to stick with notes for the time being. So we're going to add another line with this button at the bottom. So click that there. And we get another line which is currently the same, so it would still work, but we're going to change that. And instead of type we're going to change it to position. And once we pick that, we get different options which suit position. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick inside bar range. Okay, so we're going to pick that, and I want to select these notes here. So they are in the first beat or so. So our bar here is divided up into 4 beats, each of 4 16th notes. So if I pick that, that should pick most of them up, and then we're going to click select, and then I'm going to hit apply. Now what we find is that because the keyboard player was a bit excited and got a bit early, quite a few of these, while in your mind they're at the beginning of the bar, they're actually just a bit early. They're a bit over the bar line. So you see this one here, if I zoom in on that one there, that F, the C and the G, they're all before the bar. So that means this on its own could be a little difficult, but we can be cleverer than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that we're going to select anything that's outside of a larger bar range. That will make life much easier. So instead of using inside bar range, we're going to pick outside bar range, and then we're going to draw the area where the things are we don't want. So pretty much from the second beat all the way to nearly the end of the 4th beat. So go like that and draw that. And now if we hit apply, we can see we pick all those others up. So with the Logical Editor, it's often you can do things multiple different ways, as we will see in some later videos, but thinking of inside bar range or outside bar range can be really useful. So now if we zoom out, we should see we've picked all of those first ones and none of the second chords. So now I could do what I wanted to them. So if I wanted to make them really staccato, I could just do standard length editing, etc., that kind of thing, without having to laboriously select all those things all the way through, which could be majorly tedious. Now, obviously, if I want to select just these notes, I would pick a same bar range, but with inside bar range. So if I go to inside bar range, and again, something like that, if I select those, we can see they are now selected. Okay, now, if we wanted to do something to those notes, we can do. So let's go back to selecting those ones with outside bar range. And let's modify them using the Logical Editor, because we could do it, with fixed lengths or playing around with them, just editing them visually, but let's do it here. So in this section here, we can change this back to transform, and then now we can do something to them here. Let's halve their length. So we can click here, and you see our action target is going to be length, because we want to do something with their length, and then we get some options here. And let's just divide by 2. So we click divide by, and then I click here, do 2, and now I'll zoom in first so you can see what happens when you do it. But if I click apply, you see they halve. And the nice thing about this is if you pick something like this, you can always go, oh, well, I'll go smaller again. So now we've got them quite small. Or we could undo that and have them a little longer. Actually quite like them short, etc. And obviously it would depend on the sound you've got, etc. But there's some real power in here being able to select things. And even if you just use it to select notes and then work on them manually, it can make life so much easier and quicker. And if you practice a few of these things, it can just make otherwise tedious tasks really, really quick. So that's the first thing I want to show you about selection, which is picking things in terms of their position. But the second one is picking in terms of notes. Okay, so we're just going to change from that to this, which you will probably recognize. So it's a bit of Chopin. We get the idea there. Okay, now while this isn't going to work perfectly because the harmony isn't entirely following what we want to do, just take this as a quick example. So let's say we wanted to go through this and change it so it would no longer be in C minor. Let's say we wanted to try and put it into C major. Now to do that, you'd have to find all of the, as displayed here, D sharps and turn them into E's. Okay, so they're actually E flats. So in the first chord, we can see here we've got C, E flat, and G, and we might want to make that into C major by changing that to an E. Now, you could go through and do all those, but the problem is there's not just the D sharp 3s, there'll be D sharp 2s, etc. This is a reasonably simple piece. I picked this partly because it's nice and easy to see what's going on, but if you have a complicated piece or something with somebody playing live and lots of things happening, it can be really difficult to go through these and pick every note out, etc. So this is a much easier way of doing it. So I'm just going to show you the setup for that. So we've got this selected, and then we'll go to the logical editor. I've already set this up. Okay, now it's just 2 lines. So the first line is the one we always start out with. The second one, this is crucial. So pitch, and then you pick note is equal to, and then D sharp. So that means it will pick any D sharp regardless of octave. So that's really the key here, is if you want to change all of those notes regardless of what octave they're in, and you pick note is equal to and then enter that there. It's a little difficult to enter it with the keyboard. I found that clicking on it and dragging up and down worked. I think the logical editor sometimes is a little buggy. There's been a few things hanging around in it recently, so hopefully that will get sorted fairly soon. And then in the action section, all I've done is done value 1, which of course is pitch. I'm going to add 1 to it, so that's going to move it from D sharp, i.e. E flat, up to E. So if I click apply now, you will see all of these D sharps here, but also all the D sharps elsewhere will move straight away. And now, while the harmony doesn't work on all the chords, because obviously there's some things which won't work, which actually sounds a bit like the part later on if you know it reasonably well. But this is a quick way to change any given note. So if you've got, let's say in a complicated drum part, you've got some notes that you want to change because you want to change, let's say, from your snare on the D to a snare on the E, etc. You can do the entire song in one go without risking changing the timing, etc. So selecting things either by bar range or by pitch can be really useful. Obviously there are other things which we will look at later on in the series, but I want to try and keep these videos reasonably short so you don't totally zone out. So have a play with that, see what you can come up with, and next time you're picking a part where, like this keyboard part, where you've got something, a certain part of the bar which you want to do something with, the logical editor will let you select that really quickly and easily. I mean, you can actually get on with making music rather than spending 15 minutes selecting some notes.